Montreal, the everyday, and the extraordinary. The Elias Macco Show on CJAD 800.
Trudy sitting in for Elias as his paternity leave continues. We are talking now about reining in short-term rentals. The City of Montreal has decided to do it. Other jurisdictions have decided to do it as well, either to put seasonal limits on the renting out for short terms of dwellings, or to regulate them in other ways. For example, restricting them only to certain districts, tourist districts, and so on. Well, it turns out some new research is showing this may actually make a difference in terms of keeping rents more affordable than they would otherwise be. Here to tell us more is Cloé St-Hilaire, a member of McGill's Urban Policy and Governance Research Group. Chloe, welcome to CJAD.
Hi, thank you.
Tell us about the study. How was it conducted?
Basically, what we were looking at is we wanted to determine if restricting short-term rentals to principal residences was an effective policy, and we compared the neighborhoods that did enforce a short-term rental restriction as such compared to the neighborhoods that didn't, and we found that the principal residence restriction was an effective policy. We found on average that rents were $24 lower than they would have been if there were no restriction in these neighborhoods.
So savings, in the 20s every month? And that's over what period?
Basically, yes, it's monthly, and for the first year that the cities installed this principal residence restrictions, rents were lower of $24 monthly, and then it compounds over the years, and the second year we estimate the savings on rents to be around $55. So it's an effective policy at removing the Airbnbs that we consider to be commercial, so full-time Airbnbs that are operated in housing units and that remove rental stock for long-term tenants.
So that's what's happening there is that when you restrict Airbnbs only to principal residences, there's only a certain number of Airbnb hosts who would be willing to do that, have people in their homes. So it makes Airbnb, jumping on the Airbnb bandwagon a bit less attractive. Is that what I'm understanding?
Exactly. So basically what we find is that the most harmful types of short-term rentals for rents and for residents are the ones that are commercial. So really no one lives there. It's just a unit that is operated annually as a short-term rental. And then if we compare to home sharers, this creates less pressure on rent. So the effective policy of restricting short-term rental to principal residents is an effective one to countering the negative effect of short-term rentals throughout Canada.
That is one of the complaints, by the way, that we heard in Montreal before Montreal decided on the route it took, is that people were renting out or acquiring units and never living there, and using them full time as Airbnb rentals and reaping the rewards. But everyone else in their building had to deal with the tourists constantly moving in and out, dragging their luggage through the hallways and the elevators and making a racket at all hours of the day and night. And in some cases, it can make the whole building or the whole district really unlivable for locals. So I think a number of people would be happy to hear that. Any other suggestions from the research about other restrictions? Did you look at anything else like limiting the season for Airbnb rentals or limiting districts?
No, the study really focused on short-term residences, but it also highlights the fact that it's still not a widespread adopted policy. So we looked at around 800 neighborhoods in Canada, and only 300 of them had installed principal residence restrictions. So there's a lot of opportunities for other geographies to adopt these restrictions. And now that we know that they're effective, we hope that it's going to motivate the other places to install these restrictions. So throughout Canada, the prairies and the Maritimes usually have less of these restrictions in some areas.
What are some of the cities that have moved to have that restriction, principal residence only?
The first one to do it was Vancouver in 2018, so it's been quite some time since they've done it. And in our study, we really demonstrate that it's helped reducing the level of rents. So the rents have not necessarily reduced, but they're not as high as they would have been if they allowed commercial short-term rentals in their city. And we really see that the effects of these policies come into place around the second year, and they continue after that. We also have Toronto that did such a restriction a little bit later on. So we hope that the other places, so we have around 300 neighborhoods, so mostly big cities, but also cities that are more worried about the negative effect of having tourism in their neighborhoods.
What about here in Quebec, municipalities that you think could benefit from looking more closely and very soon at a restriction to principal residences only?
I really hope that any city in Quebec that is suffering from rent increases, from low vacancy rate, really consider tightening the screw on short-term rentals, because we see that it's one of the pressures on rents. Montreal has been, many boroughs in Montreal have been leaders in restricting it to principal residence or certain commercial corridors in their boroughs. So other cities now that also experience high rent increases could very well consider this as an effective policy for them.
Are there particular types of buildings that you think this policy is most effective at regulating? You know, is it most effective for condos? Is it most effective for rental apartments that are being run as businesses or single family homes?
It's a good question. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I would say that the key thing that you need to be able to enforce such a policy is to have a licensing system. So in Quebec, we do have a licensing for the entire province. So this is just a way to track the size of your short-term rental market. And then through this licensing, we can give license to commercial operations and principal residence operations. So it's really where the evaluation and the monitoring needs to come in. So someone who asks for a license for short-term rental, you really need to verify whether it's actually the principal residence or not. So this is where the city needs to do a level of verification as well as the province.
How would you evaluate the City of Montreal's approach? It took the city a long time to come to a decision to act, considering the number of complaints that people had about the disruption that Airbnb rentals were causing.
For sure. And I think one of the trickiest thing with short-term rental is having the data and having the infrastructure to be able to evaluate whether a policy works. So it's not really until 2023 where the licensing was mandatory in that Airbnb had to display the license number on the people's listing. That evaluation and monitoring could actually come in. And then if the different boroughs have different priorities, then it's also their responsibility to evaluate. So I think it's a wise policy to make short-term rentals seasonal. It's a way to concede the tourism needs with other types of needs, but ultimately we also know from housing groups in Montreal that some of them vouch for a full ban of short-term rentals in housing units. So you really need to look at the local voices and really listen to the needs of the residents. And considering that the rents are increasing and that the occupancy rates are still extremely low, there's still more that could be done for sure.
The season, by the way, that the City of Montreal settled on is basically our busy tourism season, but I think personally it can be expanded June 10th to September 10th. And I think it should start now that the Grand Prix is in May. I think maybe we should start it in May and maybe extend it till middle of October when our weather starts going south and the leaves start falling from the trees. But that would be just my personal choice on that.
Again, it depends on the priorities. If the goal is to limit evictions because of Airbnbs, then maybe we want to be stricter and we want to maybe do a better analysis of whether hotels can actually cater to everyone that comes for tourism. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered on this front for sure.
Yeah, I get that. We had Tourism Montreal earlier this week because they were talking about how we're on track to have a record season. But even they were reporting, I think the average hotel occupancy rate was 85%, which means there were still rooms available. So to me, if your occupancy isn't jacked up to 100% for weeks on end, there is room for saying to Airbnb, no.
Exactly, and there might be no need to remove housing units for long-term residents and continue to contribute to the city's housing crisis.
There you go. Cloé St-Hilaire, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Cloé St-Hilaire is a member of McGill's Urban Policy and Governance Research Group.
You've heard the chaos. Now you can see it. Oh my God. Watch all your favorite podcasts from start to finish right inside the free iHeartRadio app.
Gets the blood going, huh?
Catch every laugh and eye roll on shows like the Tom Green Farmcast and Park the Bus. Now with full video.
We're building a ramp for Tony Hawk.
It's the same hosts and the same chemistry with all the hilarious moments you've been missing right on your screen.
Cheers.
Open the free iHeartRadio app, search video podcasts, and tap watch.
Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Macko Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
There's a real boomer bomb coming down the pike. As a piece in the Gazette by Seniors Action Quebec points out, the entire baby boom generation born between 1946 and 1965 will be seniors by the end of the next provincial government's 4-year mandate. In 2031, according to projections, fully 25% of Quebecers will be seniors, compared with just 7% when the first boomer was born back in 1946. And as front-end boomers are moving this year into their 80s, that means that they are likely to need more in the way of health and community supports, twice the rate of younger seniors below the age of 79. Here to help us understand more about what Seniors Action Quebec is looking for from politicians as we head into the provincial election campaign is David O. Johnston, a member of the board with Seniors Action Quebec. David, hello.
Hello, Trudy.
Hi. What prompted Seniors Action Quebec to put this think piece together?
Well, we have an election committee, and we recognize that this is an election that will understandably be dominated by issues related to language or secularism or sovereignty. And we were afraid that this issue of demography would not be seen in the campaign unless we got out in front early and helped define it as a crucial issue. It's sort of an iceberg issue where we've always seen a bit of it above the surface. We've heard for years that sometime, this crise demographique is going to hit us. But now that all the boomers are becoming senior citizens, that crisis is here now, and at a time when the network and support of assisted living for seniors is really struggling as it is.
So looking into the provincial campaign, you have a shopping list of issues that you want the parties to tackle. What is at the top of the shopping list?
Well, number one is to recognize that the so-called crise demographique has arrived, and that this will present some fiscal and social challenges for Quebec, notably where assisted living is concerned in home care, and secondly, in long-term care facilities. We know that with home care, as it is, there's 11,500 seniors still who are on a waiting list for home care that are still waiting for their first visit. And as far as getting into a long-term care facility is concerned, a Quebec subsidized one, the so-called CHSLDs, the waiting lists are up to 18 months. 3,000 people are on it. And things aren't any better in the parallel private network, where we've lost 1/3 of private seniors residents in Quebec since 2018. In other words, we've lost 740 out of 2,100. The situation is really critical.
I'm wondering whether you would get any pushback from the younger generations, because until you have the experience, for example, of trying to get an elderly relative or an unwell relative into care, maybe it's not on your radar how difficult it is, what a struggle it is, how many hoops you have to jump through, how many concessions you have to make, and all the ongoing worries about quality of care. This whole okay boomer approach to these issues. Will you think have an uphill battle in getting these often much younger politicians to pay attention?
I don't think so. I think that they are going to, all of them are looking at what some of the issues are that could play a deciding factor. And while I do think that on the Anglophone side, most people will vote Liberal nonetheless, I do think that on the Francophone side, we're going to see this maybe play out a bit more. As far as the issues of generational relationships are concerned, certainly any young person that's had to take care of an aging parent who is now a boomer or older recognizes what a difficult situation Quebec is in at the moment. But there are particular vulnerabilities for the English-speaking seniors, of course, because many of their children have left Quebec and they don't have family close to home anymore. And many of them grew up before the Quiet Revolution, so they don't have good French language skills. So sometimes the wait to get into a so-called designated bilingual facility can be longer than 18 months. So there are pressures and peculiarities on the English side that need to be people need to be aware of too, and governments above all.
Do you think one of the front runners in the election, the Parti Québécois, is going to be interested in hearing from the Anglophone community on this score? They haven't exactly been sympathetic in the past. They pay lip service to access to health and social services, but on the ground, I'm wondering if you have much hope.
A lot of work needs to be done with all of the parties, including the Liberals. I don't see the Liberals work within existing law. The existing law says, while it's true that there's a legal right to health services in English Quebec, it also says that the right is limited to the capacity of the network to deliver those services. And only a minority of healthcare institutions in Quebec are designated to do so. The rest don't have to, and often people are up against the goodwill of the caregiver. And in some cases, you've got radical groups out there who are associated with not just the PQ, who think that any reasonable accommodation in English for an Anglophone or an Anglophone senior is equivalent to promoting the déclin du français or the anglicization of Quebec. So we really have to call on politicians to resist this populist rhetoric and be generous and broad-minded in how they deliver health and social services, particularly in the English side where there are language and different cultural needs to consider. 47% of Anglophone seniors in Quebec are immigrants.
It is interesting that towards the top of the shopping list, that you pair home care with long-term care, because I think a lot of seniors would say, if I could get the home care, I would not need long-term care, because most people, I think, until they maybe become very debilitated, most people want to stay home.
Yes, that's right. And our editorial by our president, Mona Beck, pointed that out, that seniors do want to stay at home. And that we're recommending that not just that we're pointing out that more funding will be required, but we're also pointing out that there needs to be a rebalance in favor of home care. And we're not the only ones saying that. Quebec's commissaire à la santé et au bien-être came to the same conclusion in a report done two years ago. The commissioner is saying, we need to make home care a top priority. We have been spending too much on institutional care. Seniors want to stay at home.
David, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Trudy, for having us.
David O. Johnston, member of the Board of Directors with Seniors Action Quebec.
You've heard the chaos. Now you can see it.
Oh my God.
Watch all your favorite podcasts from start to finish right inside the free iHeartRadio app.
Gets the blood going, huh?
Catch every laugh and eye roll on shows like the Tom Green Farmcast and Park the Bus. Now with full video.
We're building a ramp for Tony Hawk.
It's the same hosts and the same chemistry with all the hilarious moments you've been missing right on your screen.
Cheers.
Open the free iHeartRadio app, search video podcasts, and tap watch.
Coming up after the 10:30 news update, as reported by Tom Whalen, Judge Trudy will call traffic court to order.
This newscast is brought to you by Renovco. Renovco does it all, including plumbing. From renovations to plumbing, trust one team. Call Renovco today or visit renovcoplumbing.com.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
Or the free iHeartRadio app.
Yes, it is time for traffic court. Judge Trudy will be presiding. You can present your case by calling 514-790-0800. Promise I will give you a full and fair hearing before I bring my gavel down like a ton of bricks. 514-790-0800.
Miss something? It's never been easier to catch up.
Find CJAD 800 podcasts on the iHeartRadio app. iHeartRadio.
Or click audio on our page.
CJAD800.com.
CJAD800.com.
Hello, Canada.
This is Brian Adams Radio. Hosted by Brian Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. I'm coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them. It's only love, and that's all.
Brian Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
In the CJAD 800 traffic court system, the participants are represented by two separate yet equally important groups. The CJAD listeners, who commit the infractions, and Elias Makos, who judges the offenders. These are their stories.
Next thing I knew, the sirens were blaring, and he pulled me over, and he said, "You ran the red light."
So, wondering if I can go contest it, but unfortunately I don't have any evidence.
Lindo, you got bigger issues here.
Police officer pulled me over and said that my registration and license had expired.
Boy.
He said, "You got to check with Fact Click."
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I believe it's my constitutional right not to wear a seatbelt. I don't.
What?
He came out the car, and I said, "Guilty, guilty, guilty. Don't give me a lecture, just give me the ticket." And he was laughing.
You better have stopped there, Stephen.
I tried, but I was on ice and snow.
Can you handle the truth?
I could handle it. Go for it.
Jeannie, you shouldn't have parked there. I mean, like, you're on camera. You admitted it on CJAD. You were doing it.
The thing is that the 40 is written so far that you can't even see it.
Cry me a river.
Why did they use this one type of sign?
It doesn't matter. I'm just the CJAD fun radio judge. The real judge is going to throw the book at you.
Traffic Court. Elias Makos considers your case on CJAD 800.
Trudy Mason sitting in as the fun radio judge again this week. 514-790-0800. Have you been ticketed? Was it a parking ticket? Was it a moving violation? How did you deal with it? Were you unjustly ticketed, or did you know you were just plain guilty? 514-790-0800. Pal of mine was telling me that out on the West Island, she likes to go to a certain Tim Hortons where there are a couple of handicap parking spaces separated by an area with big hash marks on it in between the two handicap parking spaces. And that's there so that people using certain types of handicap equipped vehicles can get in and out, because they're, otherwise other vehicles would be too close. They would not be able to get in and out. So it's happened that they've pulled into the Tims and there was a car parked on the hash lines on the ground. And the guy comes out, guess he was there getting a quick coffee and a muffin or some donuts, and, the glare. And the response was, "I'm a boss. I make my own rules." How? Guilty. Oh, guilty as sin. How arrogant is that? How arrogant is that? Anyway, heard that story, and it kind of made my blood boil. I think because of the arrogant approach of, well, I'm just going to park wherever I want. Don't care who I inconvenience. So we're going to try and put a segment together with a legal expert on the situation, private property, parking violations on private property, handicap parking spaces on private property, how the ticketing is handled, what your recourse would be, who would you call if you see violations, that type of thing. So we're going to try and put a segment together on that. Here, from one of our texters, is a hypothetical question, says the texter. You witness an accident. The accident is a hit and run. You witness it and leave the scene of the accident to follow the person who ran away from it. Are you liable because you left the scene of an accident, or are you a vigilante because you were following the person who committed the hit and run? I ask this because I almost witnessed a major accident with a motorcycle and a car on the Met last week. I don't know. I don't think it would make you a vigilante if you immediately called police and say, I just saw a car hit a motorcycle and I am now following the car. The police are going to tell you, do not do anything illegal, which means you cannot speed after the car. You can't do dangerous maneuvers to keep up with the car. You can't do any of that. But I don't think that would make you a vigilante unless you somehow tried to stop the vehicle, or you waited till it stopped and then you tried to confront and then detain the person. I think that would be a big mistake, just for your own, maybe legally, I don't know, but just for your own personal safety. I don't think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think the answer there would also be, if you're gonna do, like you said, Tree, call the police. I feel like at minimum, if you're able to get the license plate, that will help. If you're able to get just the car and the license plate to the police or to the 911 operator, like, you're already giving them a good piece of information that they can be able to track, to help and track the vehicle, because they can go and find registrations and all that, most likely with a bit of help from the SAQ, if I had to imagine. So if you're at least giving them some basic information that can help them and respect the rest of the law, you're not the one that hit the car. That's the first thing. You witness it, yes, but you're not the one that hit the other person that caused the hit and run. So if you're following the car itself and you're giving police valuable information, I don't see a world that you're a vigilante in that case.
Yeah, I think that would probably be okay. The other question of, do you have to remain at the scene of the accident if you are not involved? I don't believe so. In that, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just the fun radio judge. But if because don't we all witness accidents all the time on the road? It doesn't mean just because you see an accident, you must pull over and hang around for the cops to come. If someone is injured, I think that's different. I think that if you witness an accident, like if in this case, if the motorcycle rider was knocked off his bike and goes flying on the Met, and that's different. You would want to bring aid to someone who, if you can safely pull over yourself. I mean, you can't put yourself in harm's way in traffic to try and make the situation better. But you might want to pull over if you could help someone who's injured, particularly if there's no one else around. Obviously, on the Met, there's a lot of people. But if you were on some more remote road. We have a call in from Adam now. Let's find out what Adam wants to tell us. Go ahead, Adam.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning. Very well.
So just along your comments of being a vigilante, I leave my house at 5:45 in the morning, and there is always this one gentleman who is, I see where he lived. He was always burning red lights, and he almost hit a biker one morning, and I was like, hey, that's it. I took a picture of his license plate. I called the police, and I explained them the situation. The following morning, the cops were hiding at an intersection. They saw him run the red light because I was behind him again, and they pulled him over.
Oh, yes. That must have been so satisfying, Adam. How did that make you feel?
It felt good because, like, even though it's 5 in the morning, you still, you still got to follow the rules. In the morning, the streets are dead. Doesn't mean it gives you the right to go run red lights and stop signs, So the license plate, always call the police. If you have the license plate, call the police. The officer called me later the day. He told me we intercepted the driver. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I saw. I was right behind you guys. And it was great because, it's not worth killing somebody or injuring somebody just because it's 5:45 in the morning and you're in such a rush. Like, it's not worth it.
I absolutely agree with you, Adam, and I think you did the right thing. Absolutely. And good on you, and you can dance the celebration dance with us if you want, because I think that's what I would have done if I had seen that guy pulled over the next day too. So,
for sure. I was a victim of a guy driving a stolen car. He almost killed me, and so it's just, I have no sympathy for bad drivers these days. Like, I'm on the road 10 hours a day, and the amount of stuff I see on the roads, it's mind-boggling.
No patience for scofflaws from Adam. Adam, thank you very much for calling to share your story. That's very much appreciated. It is true what Adam's talking about. I'm driving to work. Well, on this shift now, I'm driving to work around 5 in the morning. When I'm doing my new shift, I'm driving around 3 in the morning. And you wouldn't believe people going through stop signs, people going through red lights. They figure, oh, it's dead out in the burbs, no one's, but you never know what you're going to encounter. You're going to plow over somebody's cat that runs into the road. You're going to lose control. You're going to end up on someone's front step, crashing through their bedroom, or you never know what can happen when you're speeding around. It's just because it's the middle of the night and you think no other cars are around. There are road hazards that you cannot foresee. It's just really dumb and entitled to be doing that type of stuff. We will take more of your texts and calls at 514-790-0800.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Where the noise stops and the conversation begins.
Welcome to the Graham Richardson Show.
It's national conversations, from major policy shifts to the fun, unexpected trends and friends everyone will be talking about. The Graham Richardson Show, today at noon, right here on CJAD 800.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.
Traffic Court. Elias Mackos considers your case on CJAD 800.
And if you would like to stand in front of the bench and make your case, 514-790-0800. I'm trying to figure out this text, the logistics of this next text. This texter says, here's, this is kind of like, what do you do? If you see a man in a white 4-door Jeep masturbating, Can he be charged with just a phone call? It has happened twice this month. He pulls up besides transports and slows for a response. The kicker, he has Muppets on his tire cover. You know, a lot of Jeeps have the spare tire on, like on the back of the hatch, and he has Muppets on that tire cover. What to do? I think all you can do is call the cops. But yeah, that's it. This guy needs a visit from the cops. I'm just trying to figure out the logistics of this, because I suspect our texter may be the truck driver, or maybe the texter is a passenger in a transport truck. Because if you picture the Jeep pulling up alongside to the left of the truck, I don't know if even from that elevated height, the trucker would be able to see over to the driver's side. But if the Jeep pulls up on the right-hand side of the truck, then a passenger in the truck would be able to look down and see what's going on. And if it's the passenger, get video and call the cops. Get video and the plate number and call the cops. This guy is a hazard. In addition just to being antisocial, 514-790-0800. Here's a text in. I got a ticket for parking at Fairview Shopping Center yesterday. I don't think people realize that they do not have to pay fines issued by Stat Park for parking at Fairview or anywhere else, as they are not valid municipal tickets. The ticket was a ridiculous $125, but I got suspicious when it said I could pay just $85 if I paid in 7 days. It even suggested to lodge a complaint with the Consumer Protection Office if you feel targeted. That's one of the things that we hope to look into when we do a show that we're in the process of putting together, the legal ins and outs of how to manage parking spaces on private property and handicap spaces on private property, what the recourses are, and whether the people who commit the transgressions actually have to pay the fine. That was also an issue, by the way, on the private property angle around the REM station at the Cloé St-Hilaire in Kirkland, because as you know, there is no parking there for commuters except if you are a Kirkland resident and you happen to get a reservation, if you're lucky enough to get a reservation in the area reserved for you. Otherwise, you are SOL, as my grandfather used to say. So people have just been parking in the general parking lot for the theater and the businesses around the theater, and there have been patrols in there, parking patrols in there. So all of that, details to come, we hope, as we put that segment together. I'm going to bring in content producer Maxime Cadot right now, because he has some traffic and transportation related stories to share with it. One of them involving the son of Justin Trudeau. Maxime.
That is correct, Trudy. We'll get to that one in a couple minutes, but let's start with the Lower Laurentians. Did you know it's become a racetrack, Trudy? It seems that the area of Saint-Alexandre-de-Kamouraska seems to have a lot of people that love to go fast in that field. Drivers, police in the Lower Laurentian region of Saint-Alexandre-de-Kamouraska have found 3 people caught speeding in the area over the past week. We start off on from Sunday night to Monday morning, where a driver, 38 years old, was found going 151 in a 90-kilometer zone on Route 132 near the intersection with Route 289 in Saint-Alexandre-de-Kamouraska. $1,318, 14 demerit points later, his car was seized for a period of 30 days, with his license suspended for 7 days additionally. But that wasn't it. We traveled to less than 48 hours later, where 2 drivers were caught speeding in the same area of Route 289. We start off with a 56-year-old driver caught going 161 kilometers an hour in that same 90 zone. He received a $1,468 ticket, 14 demerit points, driver's license suspended for 7 days, and then approximately about an hour later, we find a 58-year-old driver going 140 kilometers per hour in that same 90 zone. $872 fine and 10 demerit points. So
all dopes, all deserve it.
Lower Laurentians right now have a bit of a racetrack problem with people going fast in the Saint-Alexandre de Kamouraska region. We then take you to New Brunswick, where Kodiak Regional RCMP have become aware back in April of a video circulating publicly that appeared to show a vehicle failing to stop for a school crossing guard that displayed a stop sign while assisting pedestrians at a crosswalk. The 36-year-old woman from the Moncton area failed to stop for a school crossing guard, was found after police were able to look at the footage, and they were able to issue a ticket to the driver. And now RCMP police are reminding motorists to exercise caution around school zones and crosswalks after concluding the investigation, especially with school season about to start soon. A gentle reminder for everyone that crossing guards have to be respected. The crosswalks have to be respected. Everyone, make your stops. Take your time. There's this safety of students and kids we're talking about here.
God, that woman is a double dope. Guilty.
And now the final story for this week, as you mentioned, Trudy, we go to the Trudeau family, more specifically the son of Justin Trudeau. He was caught, Xavier James Trudeau to be specific. He's now an influencer, makes music, and he decided that it would be a great idea to go around the city of Montreal with an e-scooter. We've been talking about the e-scooters for a couple weeks now, especially during the summertime, about doctors being aware of potential injuries, of people not respecting the laws, going too fast. Well, Xavier James Trudeau decided that he was going to take the e-scooter and then go and not wear a helmet. That's the first one. Prompting his own mother to go on Twitter, Sophie Grégoire Trudeau on Instagram, saying, "How fun. I love that scooter. Mom says, where's your helmet?"
Good for her.
Reminding her own son that she should be wearing a helmet. And the next one on the list is those scooters are not supposed to be on circulating on sidewalks. And what does Xavier James Trudeau do in the video? He rides the scooter on the sidewalks.
Okay, young and dumb.
The influencer generation continues to strike, and now a couple of people on the doctor's side and a couple of people reacting online a bit concerned that his influence might influence the younger kids that are taking these scooters to decide to go and do the actions that Xavier James Trudeau is doing.
First time yesterday, I saw a kid in our neighborhood wearing the recommended bike helmet that the Montreal Children's Hospital has been talking about. It's the motocross type that protects your face as well as your head. First time I've seen a kid in our neighborhood wearing one of those. Good on him.
A reminder that the ticket for people using the e-scooters not respecting the laws for equipment or running on the sidewalk could range between $100 and $200.
Good. A texter in saying for the Jeep driver, at the very least, what he is doing is distracted driving.
Yeah. And I should mention a small correction here. I mentioned Laura St. Lawrence. Pardon me, wrong phrasing. Not Laurentians, Laura St. Lawrence.
Oh, for St. Alexandre de Kamouraska. Yeah.
Kamouraska.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of our regular panel members who's from that neck of the woods, who's reminding us of that. Thank you to everyone who called and texted for Traffic Court today. That was a lot of fun. When we come back after the 11 o'clock news, some new funding announced for cannabis research, the pluses, the minuses of cannabis consumption. That's coming up.
Hey, Hey, I'm Ruby Carr, the host of the podcast Encore. Check out our brand new episodes featuring music from the show that everyone is reheating as we speak, Heated Rivalry. Join me as I go behind the songs that brought Shane and Elia together. I'll tell you the stories of Feist, My Moon, My Man, Wolf Parade's I'll Believe in Anything, and Tattoo's All the Things She Said, and how they all became a part of this global phenomenon. Stream Encore on iHeartRadio, Crave, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to the voice of Montreal.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
An iHeartRadio station.
This newscast brought to you by Chico Pet Stores. This Saturday only, we pay the equivalent of the taxes on everything. Don't miss out. Visit your favorite Chico store.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.